Hey everybody. So today, in today's lesson, we're going to be learning to solve certain types of equations. Not really exponential equations, but these are equations that involve exponents, of course. And then we'll actually see how this ties to exponential functions. So in this first case, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to use properties of exponents to solve simple equations like this. Now, basically, you want to reduce you like these kinds of forms where all you have to do is take a root of both sides. Like in this case, you take a fourth root of both sides, and there's your answer. Or take a fifth root, or take an nth root. So, and remember, taking the nth root is the same thing as raising it to the 1 over n power. Okay, so b to the fourth equals 16. Now, you probably already know that the answer should be b equals 2, because 2 to the fourth is 16. But even if we didn't know that, what we could do is we could raise both sides to the 1/4 power. Okay, and then this is just b raised to the 4 times 1/4. Well, that's just b to the first, which is just b. And so b is going to be b to the 16. B is 16 to the 1/4, which is the same thing as the fourth root of 16, which is, in this case, is 2. Okay, but even if this number wasn't a nice round integer, we can still find this on our calculator, right? In fact, we can raise any positive number we want to any exponent we want. So, like b to the fifth, there's no nice integer that if you raise it to the 5th power you get 7, but you could still raise this to the take b to the 5th raised to the 1/5 power, and then you get b to 7 to the 1/5. Okay, which you can write as the 5th root of 7 if you want, but you don't have to. And in fact, this is on your calculator. All you have to do is take 7 and raise it to the 1/5 power, and you'll see that this is 1.476. Okay, we'll be rounding to 3 decimal places in all these problems. Okay, if we go at 2a with something almost as simple, but in this case we have to just rewrite the left-hand side. B to the 8th divided by b to the 5th is b to the 8 minus 5. Okay, and 8 minus 5 is 3. Okay, so in this case, now we can raise both sides to the 1/3 power, and we'll get b is 5/4 to the 1/3. Okay, which on your calculator, this turns out to be 1.077. Okay. Now, so that's the basic strategy. Is if you could write every equation in this form, this or this or this, you're all set. Sometimes we have to do a few things first. Like in this case, we'd like to get rid of this 2 first, so I'll divide both sides by 2, and we'll get b to the 5th equals 7/2, and then we can raise both sides to the 1/5, and we'll get b is 7/2 to the 1/5. Okay, which is the same thing as 3.5 to the 1/5, which on your calculator is 1.285. In this case, we'd like to get rid of this 5, but we have a plus here, so what we'll do is we'll subtract 5 from both sides, and we'll get b cubed equals 15. Okay, raise both sides to the 1/3, so b is going to be 15 to the 1/3. Okay. Now, it's very easy to get a little confused and say, okay, 15 times 1/3, that's 5. Well, only this exponent, this is an exponent. This is not we're not multiplying. This was an exponent. This is the same thing as the cube root of 15. So we still have to use our calculator for this, and this is 2.466. Sometimes we have to do both of those things. We have 4b cubed plus 3. So what we have to do is we'll first subtract 3 from both sides, and we'll get 4b cubed equals 14. Then divide 4 by both sides, we get b cubed equals 14 fourths, which we can reduce to 7 halves. And then we just raise everything to the 1/3 power, so b is going to be 7 halves raised to the 1/3 power, which on our calculator is 1.1518. Okay? Alright, so there's a few examples like this. Then in the next example, like number 6 that you might see on your homework, when you're trying to solve for n, maybe we don't have values for a and d, but we can still do the same operations. We'd like to isolate this b to the n, so we'll subtract d from both sides, whatever it is. So we'll get a minus d. And then we can raise both sides to the 1 over nth power. So b is going to be a minus d to the 1 over n. Okay? Leave it like this. Don't try to distribute. This is not equal to a to the 1 over n minus d to the 1 over n. We just leave it like this. All right. Now these final two examples have to do with finding the formula for an exponential function given 2 points on the graph. Now it's kind of similar to like finding a line passing through 2 points, but it's quite, in another way it's quite different. So the way we do this is because we need 2 pieces of information to find these two variables, to these 2 numbers a and b. This says when x equals 0, y equals 2. So that tells us that 2 is equal to a, b to the 0. And this tells us when x equals 3, y is 42. So 42 is equal to a, b cubed. All right. Well, to solve this, we don't have to do too much for the first part because b to the 0 is just 1. 2 is equal to a times 1, so that tells us that a has to be 2. And then once we know that a is 2, we can plug that in back to here, and so we'll get 42 is equal to 2 times b cubed. We can divide both sides by 2. We get 21 equals b cubed. And now raise both sides to the 1/3 power. Okay, so that's b. So b is going to be 21 to the 1/3 power. And remember, this is the same thing as the cube root of 21. Okay, this is not 21 divided by 3. It's the cube root of 21, which is 2.758. All right. So that's what b is. Let's try one more example here on problem 8. This tells us a similar problem. We have the points 2, 18, and 6, 35. This says when x is 2, y is 18. So 18 is equal to a times b squared. And this says that when x is 6, b is 35. So 35 is equal to a times b to the 6th. All right. Now this is a little bit different because we can't just, none of these was 0. However, what we can see is we can kind of divide, if we divide this by this or this by this, we can see the a's will cancel. In fact, if we get 35 over 18, that's the same thing as ab to the 6th over ab squared. And then you can see the a's cancel. And this will be b to the 6th minus 2, which is b to the 4th. And so b is just going to be the 4th root of this, or we can say b is 35 over 18 raised to the 1/4, okay, which turns out to be 1.181. And then to find A, we can plug this number into either one of these. I'll plug it into this first one. So this tells us that A is going to be 18 over B squared. So this is 18 over 1.181 squared. And you can compute that this is 12.905. Okay, so that would be A. All right. So look, get some practice on the homework. Study this carefully, get some practice on the homework, and we will see you next time. Good luck.